Where will Syracuse finish in the ACC? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening on your favorite audio platform. Locked On Syracuse, always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, it's this week's Poll Friday. Where will Syracuse football finish in the ACC in 2025? And let this mini podcast serve as a preview for what could be coming next week, which is the official ACC preseason media poll. And we will do a full podcast after that. But this show is about your thoughts. So let's get right into them, where you have Syracuse finishing in 2025 in the ACC. There were over 220 votes on this week's Poll Friday, and in first place, with nearly 60% of the vote, you guys said middle of the pack for Syracuse in 2025. In second place, some of you were pretty optimistic, saying that the Orange would be a top 5 team in the ACC. That was about 1/3 of you, so 33%. And then in third place, bottom 5, not a lot of you had this, only about 8% of the vote. For context, last year, Syracuse finished 5-3 in the ACC, which was tied for 4th in the conference. And for the most part, you guys believe that Syracuse will finish anywhere between 6 and 12 in the conference this upcoming season, which would mean that the Orange would have to win about 3 games to get into that range in the conference. So let's start sorting the games and how Syracuse can finish middle of the pack of the ACC. And by the way, that's kind of where I have Syracuse at as well. I think they're going to win anywhere between 3 and 5 games in the conference this upcoming season. The tough ones, I think we've gone through them before, but in case you need a refresher here, at Clemson, that's going to be probably the toughest one. At SMU, won't be easy. At Georgia Tech, at Miami. Can Syracuse find an upset or two from that group of 4? I think it's possible. I think the toughest one of that 4 is definitely Clemson. And I guess the quote-unquote easiest, because I don't want to call any of these opponents easy, to be quite honest with you, it's probably Georgia Tech. Probably, because Syracuse did beat them at least last year, but Syracuse is a completely different team than it was last season. So overall, in that tough games, I would like to see Syracuse win at least one of them, but who knows? Then you got 2 swing games, in my opinion. These are a couple of games I feel could go either way for Syracuse this upcoming season. You got Duke and Pitt. Duke is, I think, a big sleeper in the ACC for 2025. They're also coming off a 9-win regular season with a second-year head coach in Manny Diaz. Now, Manny Diaz does have prior head coaching experience, but they're not too unlike Syracuse in that regard, coming off 9-win regular seasons with now a second-year head coach leading the program. And they also just paid a lot of money to get their quarterback, Darian Mensah, from Tulane. They could be pretty good, especially when you see their schedule and you realize how many games are really on Duke's schedule that you feel they can't win. There's really not many. So I think Duke is a pretty good team, but Syracuse is getting them at home, which would increase their chances of obviously winning that game. And then there's Pitt. Pitt just always seems to hang around. Pitt's always a pretty decent team in the ACC. They've obviously had some years where they do really well. That one year with Kenny Pickett. And then they have other years where they're not very good. But for the most part, Pitt is always a pretty solid team in the ACC. And of course, as Syracuse fans, we learned that the hard way last year, where Syracuse went to Pitt on a Thursday night and got absolutely destroyed. So hopefully Syracuse can get the revenge right there. But overall, in order for Syracuse to at least win 3 to 4 games in the ACC, they're going to have to beat both these teams that we're going to talk about next here on Locked On Syracuse. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. I always keep a few packets in my backpack. It has definitely saved me more than once from that midday crash. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you could save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Gametime's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on this week's Poll Friday, we're going over where you have Syracuse football finishing in the ACC for 2025, and you guys voted, mostly believing that Syracuse will finish in the middle of the pack of the conference, which is where I have them as well. I could see anywhere between 3 and 5 wins in the ACC for Syracuse this upcoming season. But in order for Syracuse to at least get to 3 to 5 wins, there are a couple of must-win games on the schedule. And I want to be very clear, I don't want to call these games easy either. I really don't. I just want to classify them as must-win. After all, these are two teams that are in the ACC. And quite frankly, at least with one of them, we really have no idea whether or not they're going to be good or not. And of course, the first opponent I'm talking about is North Carolina. They are a very difficult team to project. Obviously, they have a new head coach. He's got plenty of experience, not much in college, though, in Bill Belichick. Who knows what they're doing at quarterback? It's probably going to be Gio Lopez, but, I mean, between you and I mean, are you sure about Gio Lopez and his ability to start? Are you sure? Maybe he'll be really good. I don't know. But North Carolina, Bill Belichick, Gio Lopez, I don't know. I could honestly see that team being really good, winning 9-10 games, surprising everyone. And I can also see them falling completely flat on their face and winning 3 to 4 games. And we're all laughing at North Carolina at the end of the season. To me, I think it's a must-win game for Syracuse in 2025. And then you got Boston College. Syracuse has lost to Boston College in each of the past 2 seasons. And last year was much more egregious because Syracuse had a better team. But they went into Boston College and their defense did not show up, made too many mistakes, poor tackling, and they lost that game. And if they had won that game, they would have had 10 regular season wins. And who knows where they would have been as far as positioning for college football playoff. Probably still wouldn't have made it, but it would have made things a little bit more interesting had they beaten Boston College. And it's funny because it's on the table for this to occur where Syracuse and Boston College, they play the final game of the regular season against each other. That could determine who makes a bowl and who doesn't. I know you probably don't want to believe that. As a Syracuse fan, including myself, I definitely don't want Syracuse being 5-6 heading into the final game of the regular season. But it's on the table that they're 5-6 and that Boston College is 5-6 and they're both playing for who makes a bowl. Boston College at the end of the day is a must win for Syracuse football this year. They have to get off the schneid and they have to just beat this team. So, barring a non-conference upset, which would be over Tennessee or Notre Dame, and obviously then holding serve against UConn and Colgate. I think that Syracuse has to win at least 4 ACC games to make a bowl, and I think that they will win 4 ACC games at least. Therefore, you win at least 4 ACC games. Back to this week's question, which was where do you have Syracuse finishing in the ACC? You win 4 games in the conference. You're a middle of the pack team in the conference. But what are your thoughts? Where do you have Syracuse finishing in 2025, specifically in the conference? Comment in the comments section below. As far as what is coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future, barring any big breaking news, there will not be any sort of podcasts over the weekend. We will be back on Monday. I anticipate that next week we're going to do some more Syracuse football position previews. I do want to start by talking about the tight end room. I did tease that in the last show that we did on Thursday. So tight ends, be on the lookout for that as a position preview. But also, as I mentioned earlier, the ACC media poll is going to come out soon. I don't know when, but it's going to come out soon. And when it does come out, we're going to talk about it here on Locked On Syracuse. So all that and more coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future. And thank you for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith, who's got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. And you can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal Podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow, reach all Syracuse Orange fans, and I will see you all again soon.